What evil lurks in the dark? A question we have all asked ourselves many times. Together, we can start uncovering the truth and mystery behind the darker side of the otherworldly. And now your host of See You in the Dark, Michelle Roos.
Well, good evening to you all, and thank you for joining us tonight. We actually have a really good show ahead of us tonight. I know a lot of you have seen the movies, you've read the books, you've heard the stories. There's a new movie coming out about The Conjuring. And, the guest that I'm bringing on tonight is actually someone that I can also call a good friend of mine. But she's not all about the Conjuring House. But the biggest thing she does do is almost like a caretaker there. And to be able to kind of separate the movies from what's really there about the spirits that are there, good spirits, negative spirits, but how they all coincide together. I will be bringing her on soon. She is a certified Reiki master, a crystal healer, and I'm going to kind of actually let her, tell you a little bit about herself before we start getting into some of the stuff about the Conjuring House and whatever else might pop up tonight. If you guys have any questions or anything that we might be able to, answer, make sure you put those out there. And I'm not going to waste any more time because we only have an hour. I would love to introduce everybody to Erin Bush and let her tell her a little bit about herself.
Hello. How are you?
Hello. I am wonderful. How are you?
I'm good. It's nice to be here. It's funny to do one of these without like a visual.
I know it. I
I
have to
love
watch I like the circles are like bouncing back and forth, so I know when to talk.
I know,
Um,
right?
so Erin, everybody thinks about you, because you're with Andrea Perrin, Conjuring House. You're also a
Mm-hmm.
caretaker, Conjuring House. But before we
Right.
get into all of that, can you kind of tell people a little bit about yourself because there's so
Sure.
much more. Go
Yeah.
for it, girl.
Well, I sort of started jokingly referring to myself as a paranormal girl Friday. I do a little bit of a lot of things. So I work with the Perrin family. I work at the farm, obviously. We call it the farm, Conjuring House. I'm an energy healer, so I do Reiki. But I do a lot of admin work sort of behind the scenes for people. And I do quite a bit of graphic work for, other YouTube shows and podcasts and things like that. And so I somehow have found myself sort of in the middle of all of it. And I've loved it. Say hello to Bernie, who, of course,
Hi,
not
Bernie.
him supposed to bark when I'm live. Um, if people are looking for help, and I think the admin side of this field is very underserved. And so I think I've been able to sort of step in and help people navigate some things that maybe they needed help with. So yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell
Awesome, awesome. And
on
like
that
I
end of
said,
things.
yeah. Well, and every time somebody you say the Conjuring House or like you guys call it the farm, everybody goes right to
Mm-hmm.
what the movies are out there.
Scary demons, right?
Yes, the whole thing.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it's so intriguing because, you are kind of like one of the caretakers and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
you spend a lot of time out there, with the spirits,
Mm-hmm.
whether they're giving you a little bit of fun or a little bit of,
Right.
here I am and let me play tricks on you. But,
Yes.
what have you found that is actually there at the farm that the movies have completely left out?
So I think it's interesting. The movie Andrea would tell you is probably only 5, maybe 10% based on fact. I think from personal experience, now I live in Florida and I've got a little bit of a different background because I am not a paranormal investigator.
Mhm.
Um, I fell into this on accident a couple of years ago. And so for me, I was offered this job last summer, starting out working for the camping, as we call it, ghost camping side of the farm. And that was my first time spending the night, quote unquote, for an extended period of time in a haunted location. And who does that, right? Like, who decides that that's going to be their first job in the paranormal field, is to go spend 18 nights
Right?
on the property at the house? But what I learned, a lot of things. One, that house 100% absolutely matches energy. I've found if you walk in with an open mind, understand that, this can be a very powerful learning experience. But then also to most importantly, lead with respect and kindness, because at the end of the day, it's their house, right? They were there first.
Absolutely.
And so for us, really respecting them is the most important thing to us. Making sure our guests respect them is also very important to us. I think what I've learned too is that they want us to learn more about them. They are, I feel like, helping us learn more about them. I think that they also are very much aware of what your experience level is in this field. And I think they respect that. I always set an intention before I go that I'm coming to learn, I'm coming to help, I'm coming to grow personally. And I think they hear you when you say that. I mean, they've told us that it's very important to them to know what your intention is. I think they already know that. Like, we know they prepare for every guest, but I think it's important to them to hear you say it. And I do think that for us as employees at the farm, they're part of the team too. So we always kind of joke, like, as we're, in the mornings, if we're kind of going over what the day looks like, we're wondering if they're doing the same thing, like from their side of things. And that they will take care of us, that they will protect us, that, now, do they need us, quote unquote? No, but they need us to protect them from the human element.
And I'm so glad you said that.
Mhm.
You've said a couple of things. One, energy matches energy.
Yeah.
I know we've had discussions in the past, like we were talking about, the paranormal. I don't know, what a lot of people think of, when we're going to do an investigation, we are trying to learn, and they do want to teach us and have their stories,
Mm-hmm.
but it's all energy based. And
Yes.
people forget that that's what they are,
Mm-hmm.
and you said it, perfectly. It matches your energy. I mean, if you're coming in and you're going to be disrespectful and all that, that would be like if somebody broke into your home or my home, Bernie or us, we're going to stop
Right.
that attack,
Yep.
and that happens in the spirit world, but people forget to think that. They automatically think demons.
Yeah, of
And,
course.
I love what you're saying about this. They're there to help. They want their stories to be told, but they're
Mm-hmm.
also very protective because to them, that's still their place.
Yeah, I mean, we've had instances where, like through Cody and Satori, not even like just not even we were closed that day. We were talking to them and they told us, okay, we're done talking now. We have to go back to work. So they're still working the farm that place used to be. And I think, I'd be remiss in not addressing the fact, we don't hide the fact that there is a more negative type energy in the cellar, the basement. Do we think that that's probably what was pulled in the night of the seance, that Carolyn experienced? Maybe, probably. And the way we sort of handle that is we just don't give it a lot of energy. I mean, we'll talk about it. We'll go over to the area we think that energy resides, and we are respectful of it still. But you can't work at a place like the Conjuring House and say, "Oh no, it's all love and light."
Right?
Spirits who are love and light. The ones who live there, who lived on that farm. You look at Abigail Arnold; she had 14 kids in that house. There's a lot of love that those spirits have for that house, but there is definitely something darker there. Do we think it originated there? We have no idea. But you can't do right by your guests or the house if you're not calling it for what it really is, right? And of course, outside's a totally different ballgame. We don't really know what all's out there. But I think for us, it's important to address, yes, we have amazing spirits. I think most of our spirits are these, just wonderful human, now spirit type energies that take care of us as we try to take care of them. But you do have that darker side of it there. But again, that also goes back to the matching energy. I mean, if you're coming in to the house, if you're just a polite, nice, kind person, you're gonna have a great time. But if you come in all puffed up, looking to start some stuff, chances are good that it may not end well for you. We've had people run out of the house. We've had people get scratched. Um, but I've yet to really hear it happen to someone that was just there to enjoy the day, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, it does make sense. And, again, that's the stuff you guys go over, and you are
Yeah.
very open that there is kind of a negative energy there.
Mm-hmm.
And it could
Yep.
be coming from the outside, from the woods in different areas. But at the same
Yeah.
time, these people might come in, and people forget this. A lot of these paranormal investigators, when they go to these locations, they might
Mm-hmm.
come in, like you said, love and light, but their true intentions is, am I going
Correct.
to provoke so I can get,
Mm-hmm.
something on film? People don't understand. Spirit knows your true intention. So,
Yes.
I could come in and say, "Oh, it's nice to see you, Erin. I'm so excited. I'm so positive." But my true
Mm-hmm.
intention is I'm going to do everything I can to get that little bit of evidence. And
Yes.
that's something people do not understand, that spirit speaks to us in a different frequency.
Yes.
So it's not your mouth that the stuff comes out of, it is what they
Mm-mm.
know that's going on. And this is where, like you said, people getting scratched or running out of the house because their true intention was not what it was when they were walking through the door. So,
Oh yeah, and they'll let you know. I mean, we've had some wild experiences where, somebody was at an event and we had a spirit very, 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 very upset. And came to a friend of ours in North Carolina. She ends up calling me. We talked to him, and I was at the farm while it was happening. She was. Oh, sorry.
we're talking about the farm.
Pardon me, audience.
That's okay.
He thinks everybody's out there filming. But the spirit was very upset with a specific person
Yeah.
in the house, and it basically he was come to find out a day later after talking to the other staff members, there was somebody there that was basically just making a joke of the whole investigation part of things, not respecting the house. And the spirit told us, and I think that's a true testament to the relationship that we have formed with them as staff, and that they find it important enough to let us know no matter how they have to do it, whether it's to go to somebody else at the house on the property or to go to a very gifted sensitive in North Carolina who knows there's a connection.
Yeah.
But I do feel like we all look at it like it's a team effort. They're as much a part of that staff as we are, and if we don't work together, that place doesn't work.
Yeah. And I had the opportunity to actually visit there. And I was there
You
on two
did.
different nights for a little bit. And I could tell a difference of both of those nights of what was going on. It was like one
Right.
night felt really good. And I'm like, okay, this is great. Until we got out on the grounds. I will tell you, I was just a little bit nervous on the ground because of all the stuff there.
Sure.
But the second night, you could tell there was a difference. So
Yes.
like I said, it's not just the house, but that land out there is so alive, and it
Oh,
does go back and forth. So, the intention of somebody there was not, the true intention that what the spirits were expecting. And,
totally agree.
I've talked about this before, when we're talking the darker side, we have always wanted to jump to call it things and give energy to names that we shouldn't be given energy to.
Agree.
But even some of the spirits that are out there, if they had something traumatic happen to them in life, or they were upset,
Mm-hmm.
everybody thinks, okay, their spirit, even if it's intelligent, they can't tell you how they feel or what they know. Well, that
Right.
is untrue, very untrue.
Correct.
And so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I think that aggravation or that scratch or something is just, they're frustrated. You know, think
Yes.
about it, if you had people just coming to your home all the time, after a while, we don't want any guests. We're just like, leave us
Mm-hmm.
alone.
Yeah.
Um, it was crazy how 2 nights, 2 different nights of what was being felt and how things were
Mm-hmm.
changing. It kind of blew my mind because it was like a back-to-back 2 nights. So it wasn't like,
Yes.
one time and then waiting. So just
Mm-hmm.
in that flip, um, Is there a time that you were there, that you just felt so uneasy and it wasn't part of the spirits that you knew that you felt like, "Oh, I feel like I'm under the gun right now."
Well, this will probably make most paranormal investigators laugh because I am a complete and total sissy when it comes to this stuff. So my second or third night there last summer was my first night camping. And when we do the camping experience, there are 8 tents out on the property. And then one of the staff members serves as the caretaker for the camping experience. So we're actually camping with them. We're in our own tent. And it was my first night out there, and we had a pretty nasty storm rolling through, and I had a moment of sheer panic. Like, I think in that moment, felt like I had really made a bad mistake because I don't have the experience. Like, you really should have. Now, of course, I'm a sensitive, so I understand energy very well. But from an investigative standpoint, I don't have any. So I'm sitting in this tent. It's thundering and lightning. It's raining. I'm freaking out. I'm almost in tears. I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? What have I done? And all of a sudden in this tent, all the inside of it starts lighting up orange, like this, like in and out orange. And I'm checking we have like a tiny generator so we can run a fan. I'm looking for lights on that. I'm checking the phone. I'm checking the fan, nothing. And it dawned on me, it was a female who'd come from the house because she knew I was scared out of my mind. And it took me about 30 seconds to put it together. And it was very much like you're okay. We got you. We'll stay here. And they stayed with me the first 3 nights. Cause I mean, you're sitting in the middle, you've been we're not quite in the woods, but it's right there.
Yeah.
And you're about 500 feet from the actual house. So, I think for me, they helped me get over that initial absolute, because I was terrified. I have no problem telling people that. None at all. That's the only time I have felt really uncomfortable. But like you said, it had nothing to do with the spirits. But again, like, I don't know what's in the woods. And to your point, the energy can change from night to night. Now, you don't know who's, you've done a tour with the people that are camping or they're investigating, but you don't know necessarily much about them. Right. So I don't know where that fear came from, but it was definitely somebody from the house, maybe from the land, that stepped in and helped me get through that for 3 whole nights. And then once I finally got comfortable, I never saw it again. But I feel like for myself, I just came off a week staying there in the house for the first time alone as the caretaker. A lot of interesting experiences in that regard, but I haven't had anything yet that felt dangerous or scary to me from that end of things. And I'm very well aware of what could potentially be there. But I also think a lot of that has to do with my own mindset, my intention, and the relationship that I have tried to form with them. And, it's not been quite a year since I've been working out there, but I've tried. That's always been my priority. I want them to know exactly what I'm there for and why, so that I don't have a problem. You know what I mean?
Oh, I definitely know what you mean. And you're correct but just like, and I gotta say, when I go to places anyways, I always go in trying to, just navigate myself. But the anticipation, the anxiety was getting to me before we actually pulled in. And so, I'm thinking of it as, okay, then you see the house and then this whole swarm of things are just going through you. And, and sometimes I feel with a lot of people, especially because it is the Conjuring House, I mean,
it is.
It's it's the staple of paranormal world, I guess you could say, right? And so I know how I felt going in there. And so I was kind of bombarded there the first night. I mean, you've seen, it was kind of like, what am I doing? And I felt, I can't even explain the feeling, but I was actually kind of terrified for those few moments, even though I didn't act like it. My insides, it was almost like, I was being judged. I guess that's the best way to say it. Let's see what she can take, kind of thing. And I think some people go to the Conjuring House with that kind of feeling that sometimes I think that's playing more on them than, I'm seeing the spirits, standing in the background laughing, going, really?
Right.
I haven't done nothing yet. And
well, I think it's such an I mean, now granted, I don't have a lot of things to line it up with, right? Like my only other real experience would probably be Ohio State Reformatory, which I was just there for an event. But that place, I mean, it is I'm like you. Like I feel it before I get there. I've got a radius about a mile or two. I will feel it before I'm there. It's just, there's so much, and it's, you know, it's the house spirits, it's the land spirits, it's the Native Americans, it's the, you know, do we have elementals? Do we have, like, it's everything in one small spot. Now it's 8.5 acres, but that's a lot of energy to put in one spot. And you're right. I think your own anxiety, your own anticipation, your own fear of a place like that can very much play it. We've had people who didn't want to get out of the car or didn't want to give us their weight. Like they were so terrified. And I'm like, do you really think I would drive 22 hours from St. Augustine, Florida to Harrisville, Rhode Island, like 5 times a year if I thought I was going to be attacked by a demon? But you also have the other end of that spectrum. You have people who only want that. That's what they want. And then they get very disappointed when that's not what they get. Right? I think for some people, the movie is so much more important than the actual historical information that we have, that can kind of ruin their experience as well. So that's why I try to tell people, like, drop all your expectations at that gate before you even pull in. Because you and I have talked about this. That house is a living, breathing being itself, I think.
I totally agree. Totally agree. Because it makes you feel like you're being judged. Are you good enough to come through the door? And
right. Are you going to be kind today? Kind of thing. Yeah, I think you're right. And you're never alone on that property. I mean, I usually stay in the camper that's just off the other end of the house, which has its own ghost in it that it came with. And I think it's more of an aspect at this stage of the game where things are more startling to me than scary.
Yes.
You know? You shouldn't be hearing furniture moving across the floor upstairs when you know good and well there's nobody else in the house, or, you know, people running back and forth. Like, it's just your brain is trying to rationalize what's happening. And it's so often things going on in that house that, you know, it takes a while to kind of get used to it. But I've never had any experiences that made me feel unsafe. I've had moments of panic for sure, but I think that's more my lack of experience. But I always try to explain that to them when it's happening to me. Like, this isn't you guys. I'm just overwhelmed. You know, I'm constant. Like, if people were to look at our surveillance camera, they'd think we were all nuts because we all walk through the house talking to them all day long.
Well, and I think that's also, it helps for yourself too, you know. That's why I said, you know, if people looked at the cameras and stuff. And the thing about, you know, I think there is negative energy out there. There are bad spirits. There's more bad spirits than there are demons. And the thing is, people talk about demons. Okay, they're not going to take a cue from us. If we're like, hey, demon, if you're here, come to me and stuff like that. Okay, they can't stand us as humans. They're going to come when they want to come. So, you know, to throw that word demon out there and all that, you know, they're not on a payroll. They're not going to come and show themselves, okay? No. And there is a dark side to the paranormal. There really is. And I've seen it. I've witnessed it. I've done some things. I've seen it. I don't put it down, but what I do have a problem with is when people just loosely throw that kind of stuff out, and that stuff was thrown out with the Conjuring House, because that's why I was scared, because I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, if this is demon filled, like they're saying, why are people, you know, being let in?
Right.
But to find out, yes, there is some negative energy there, but the other spirits are a lot stronger and are able to keep that at bay. And that is very impressive there. And you said, there is so many different spirits there. You don't know, you know, people think, oh, it's just the spirits with the house. No. Oh, no. There are spirits there that I'm looking going, oh, well, wait a minute here. This doesn't match the narrative, you know. And
that bring their own people with them.
Absolutely.
It's an amplifier. House, I think.
Yes, it is. Everybody, we will be back in just a couple of minutes. We got to take a short break, and we'll continue talking with Erin and the Conjuring House, and maybe some little other dark things that she might know about. We'll be back real shortly.
This is Margie Kay, and I'd like to say thank you to all of our KUNX show hosts, staff, listeners, and viewers for making us number one on Paranormal Talk Radio.
The UNX Network presents a health and wellness spiritually based brand of hemp-derived CBD products made by Hopewell Farm in Harrogate, Tennessee. We apply our Cathara energy work with all of our plants and products. Our products made in small batches with only 2 ingredients of pure hemp, full-spectrum crude oil, and coconut-derived MCT oil. Third-party lab tested for potency and legal THC levels with 6 strengths of 1 ounce oil to choose from. Know what you're buying and get what you pay for from Hopewell Farm. Applied directly to a specific area, Hopewell Farm topical salve in 1 ounce and ½ ounce sizes made with pure hemp crude oil, comfrey extract, and all natural ingredients. Find the Hopewell Farm link and coupon code on the UNX Network website at unxnetwork.com. That's unxnetwork.com.
Hey, UFO conference enthusiasts. We've got another great event for you in 2024. The Saucers and Aliens Kansas UFO Day in Dimension G is being held in the UFO capital of Kansas, Geneseo, on July 6th. This is a fun festival in the middle of nowhere. There will be a parade, decorated yards, costumes, vendors, speakers, and a showing of the movie The Day the Earth Stood Still. Appropriately, an 8-foot-tall statue of Gort and a statue of Klaatu will be dedicated. This will be the only museum in the U.S. with these custom-made statues. If you'd like to donate to the statue project or attend the event, visit GeneseoMuseum.com. That's GENESEO Museum.com. Be sure to bring your camera when you attend the event. That's GeneseoMuseum.com.
While most near-death experiencers return to this plane of existence with alluring tales of their time spent in the presence of the divine, what happens when one crosses the veil into the afterlife, into the void? In the new book, Dying to Meet Them, Mindy Toutfest describes her journey to the afterlife after a devastating aneurysm, how a strange turn of events would lead her to spiritual growth, divine healing, UFO experiences, and a greater understanding of the universe. Get your copy of Dying to Meet Them today at Amazon.com or visit unxmedia.com for more information on this book and more amazing selections from UNX Media Publishing at unxmedia.com.
and welcome back. We have been talking to Miss Erin Bush. She's a caretaker over at the Conjuring Home or House, excuse me, and the farm, like some know it. And we were kind of just going back and forth talking about the spirits, going from, people thinking what are demons, negative energy. But I know, Erin, you have also been to, what was it, the Ohio prison
Oh, the
or whatever that
reformatory.
was? Yeah.
Hmm.
And didn't you have more of a darker experience there than you do when you're at the Conjuring?
That was an interesting place because one of the abilities I have, I guess, falls under the clairsentience, that clairtangence. That was the first place I walked out of and felt like it was absolutely adamant that I tell them all that they couldn't come home with me. There was a gentleman who was having me feel his lobotomy that went on for about an hour. I had to basically beg the guy to stop. But I think it wasn't meant cruelly. He was just trying to get somebody to understand. But you get into that solitary confinement area.
Uh-huh.
And it was almost the darkness for me that I picked up on more is just the unending, like the sadness and the despair. But your head, I just felt like my head was on a swivel the whole time I'm there. Like I just, being a female, because I spent I wasn't working the event last year. I just spent a lot of time trying to walk through it, take it in. And there were several places you just knew you weren't supposed to be there. It just didn't feel good. Almost like you felt like somebody was coming, like if you walked around a corner, somebody was going to jump out at you or something like that. It was just darker, I think, given what has happened in that place. And you get into that attic. I think they put 300 men from another prison into this attic space with no windows, no doors. That scared me because you could feel them all standing at that far end, and they were happy we were there, but not for the right reasons, if that makes sense. That's what it felt like to me. Okay. That place was a little bit tougher from that standpoint, just knowing, I think, what happened in there and some of the darkness that happened in there from an energetic standpoint was a lot more difficult to just make sure to draw a line in the sand when I got in the car. Like, you guys can't come home, because we had one guy who just kept telling us, please don't leave me here. Please don't leave me here. And he was in solitary. We actually Carrie Hopper got him on camera. But that one was a tougher one for whatever reason than the farm. But I think it's probably because of the connection I have to the farm anyway.
Yeah.
But Ohio State was tough. It's just sad.
Yeah.
So sad.
And that's something I have talked about too. It doesn't matter where you're at, when
Right.
you hear the Conjuring House, everybody thinks dark, negative right away, where in actuality, it is kind of a brighter place, but there is that lingering darkness that, can get you at any time. Then,
Yes.
people go to other places, not realizing the dark's already there,
Yes.
because again, we talk about this all the time. It's so energy based. With me, it's a little different because, they always want to run up and tell me their story. And sometimes that's all they need. But it's also scary because it's so aggressive the way they do it. And
Right.
I've had to learn to kind of say, okay, it seems aggressive to me, but it's maybe more excitement to them, even though,
you can see them. Right.
Yes. And it always
Perspective
makes
is
me
such a huge thing.
Yes.
Perspective on that is the whole thing. And I know, and maybe I think to your point, like my experience at OSR was terribly sad. That's also how I feel about the St. Augustine jail. I hate that building, but it's not because it's terrifying. It's so overwhelmingly sad that from an emotional standpoint, if you're a pretty strong empath and you pick up, feelings, it's not a good place for you to be. Now, I know a lot of people experience the darker end of it. Like you and I have talked. I get love notes. You don't. So you would see the more terrifying side of a place like that. I'm going to always draw in more, I feel like, the lost, sad, don't understand what's happening. But don't get me wrong. There are places in that prison. You couldn't pay me to investigate that place. I've been asked several times to go investigate OSR. No, thank you. But I'm not ready for that. Like, I know that like my level of experience is not up to snuff to handle a place like that. I think too, for people, it's also very important to, understand your own boundaries too with this stuff, because you and I both know this stuff, if you're not prepared going into a place like that, it can go south for you very quickly. I always try to stay in my lane and know what I can handle and what I can't handle. And OSR is definitely a place that I am not ready for in an investigative type capacity. But I think that's good to know your own limits. And I respect the place. And again, it wasn't because it was overwhelmingly terrifying. There are places, but mostly it was the overwhelming sadness, fear, and despair. That was what was hardest, I think, for me.
Yeah. So, that was hard for you and stuff. And, the question that I have heard a lot of people ask, we know the Perrin family being at the Conjuring House and everything they suffered. And firsthand exactly, how she was, and how she still is, still trying to get over everything that happened to them. Um, and then we had the other family there also, and now it's kind of like, do you feel that when it's just somebody living in there, that the energy, the darker side of that energy, has more to feed off of? Or, why did it show there and it's not really showing now?
I think from, like we talk about on our tours, the question is why the parents? Because, even anybody after that, I mean, even with the Heinzens, it wasn't to that degree. But I think I can't speak to the Heinzens experience so much, but from the parents' experience, Roger and Carolyn's marriage was already falling apart before they even walked in the doors of that place. Right. So they brought in a lot of marital strife and discord and arguing. And then, of course, Roger didn't believe any of this was happening. Like it was like the perfect recipe for chaos to feed off of, for sure. And then you've got 5 girls all under 12. I mean, like, pick a reason, right, that the parents suffered the worst of it. But again, if we're talking about a place that matches energy, they brought in a lot of not great energy. But on the flip side of that coin, the family, Carolyn included, will say there were just as many beautiful experiences at that house. People just focus on the negative end of it. But if we don't address the negative end of it, then we're doing the public a disservice, and we're also doing ourselves a disservice. Because you have to be on your toes at a place like that.
Absolutely. And I've heard you mention that a lot. And again, I just, in case the listeners kind of missed it, you said it again. When the parents went in there, it matches energy. So the energy they had moving in was already feeding some of that negative there, and it just was growing from there. And that's something, when I say, we want to talk the darker side of things, it's not always on the spiritual side. It's what we bring to the mix to add that. And that is why I was, asking about the parents, because again, a lot of people only know the Conjuring House because of the movie or of the books or these so-called YouTubers that might have been around that did some of that kind of stuff to make it, oh, this is spooky.
Right.
And with you talking about it, I want the listeners to know that, again, you've said it many times, it matches energy. And so with them moving in with that kind of energy, I mean, like you said, a perfect storm.
Right.
And so, and when we talk about all this, of course, you can't be in the paranormal without any kind of drama. Somebody brought somebody brought something up, and I want to know your opinion on this because it kind of made me stop and think. So with all this drama going around, and of course, firsthand of a lot of it, but it's just all across the board. Okay.
It is.
But someone made the comment to me and said, hey, do you think a lot of these investigators who are doing a lot of this drama have been at some locations, and because we're talking about matching energy, not protecting yourself, could they have gotten just skips of negative energy that attached to them that has made them to the point of there's no stopping? They're just straight out, well, I'm going to call it straight, they're just evil. And, what are your thoughts for something like that?
I mean, I can't speak to other locations. I think our location specifically, what we really experience is I don't think anybody really gets anything following them home unless they're trying to steal something off the property, and then you got a whole other bag of worms. But can you pick up negative energy anywhere you go? You and I both know that that's true. So I can't say that that's incorrect. But I also think more than anything else at play is ego.
Absolutely. I think,
it's a thing where the paranormal field, and I'm just going to say it, the paranormal field in the time that I've been in it has become a place full of jealousy, envy, anger. And that's all like low vibrational energies, right? Which makes sense on the level, like you're talking about negative entities or negative anything is going to be low vibrational, dead or not, doesn't matter. So if that's the world you kind of play in anyway, that's just going to be your natural vibration, I think. I think people can try and play the other end of it, that they're not that way. But as we've discussed, the true intentions always end up coming out.
Absolutely.
But I think we're in we're at a stage in this field now where and this is just my own opinion, that we're no longer concerned about investigating locations for the historical facts that we can find about the location of the people that actually live there. It feels to me like now it's more, who can I take a picture with and put it on the internet? Now, there's nothing wrong with taking pictures. A lot of people do it. I get it. But in my personal experience, that seems to be the more important thing now than actually learning anything. And I found that to be very frustrating. And that's what I love about where I work, because we get to decide how much we want to learn about a place because we're in it all the time.
Yeah.
And all of us share that same headspace. And we all share the same headspace that we are there for the spirits first. No, really no other reason. But I think even just saying you work at the Conjuring House or saying you're involved with this person or that person stirs up instant hate. Like there's, plenty of people who don't like me just because I stand up every morning and breathe. Well, people always ask, oh, how did you end up getting this job? Or it's like, I just decided to help. Like I don't ask for anything from anyone. I just tried to fill a need where I see it and just quote unquote donate my time. And I think when you talk about matching energy, like my intention's always been, okay, if I want to be involved in this field, how can I do it? I'm a helper. I've always been an administrative assistant. That's my natural lane to go into. So I can lead with what I know will help other people and still be involved. But I think that can upset people too, because I don't want to be on television. I don't want to be in front of a camera. I don't, and those are things that are enough to make people angry that you're involved in the field. So I think you have a point. Could it be the negative energies from entities that they're picking up? Absolutely, because it's negative energy begets negative energy. So I think that's certainly a good case to be made for that.
Well, and I just, and like I said, it was just brought up and I never thought of it that way. But, we do talk about that. If you have negative energy, you're feeding it and something could attach to you. And, does it enhance your true self? And that's something I was wondering, So, you've got this facade or you're wearing all these masks at this time, look at me, I'm this, and this. But then when that vibrational goes down, like you said, the vibrations go down and the energy starts attacking that, does that then just show their true intentions, their true identity coming out of who they really were? And is that helping us unmasking them?
I mean, I think so. I think you can tell a lot with people's behavior. And I mean, there's no secret that I obviously work at the house, and the other people that I work with are very much the center of attention right now. But I've been shocked at the cruel things that are said, and comments that are made, and we don't have to be mean to one another. This is a big enough field with plenty of stuff for all of us to continue to learn. But we don't have to be mean about it. You can't. I feel like it's a complete lack of being unable to be happy for other people doing really neat things in their own lives that they've worked hard for. And that's the other thing. People only see us, and I'm a small name in a big pond. I am perfectly aware of that. But people only will see me on these podcasts. They have no idea the things that people like us do behind the scenes that we don't discuss, that we're not posting on the internet, because it doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
It's just
absolutely.
Some of us just want to help and want to be involved, and that's purely the only agenda. How can I help you? That's it. But that's enough to send people to the moon. It's amazing.
Oh, I know. And when I had talked to you and you were talking about like you had haters, it like blew my mind, because I'm like, why? I mean, what has she done that would like interrupt your clicks? You know what I mean? But it's the truth. It's out there. And, that's kind of like what I was, trying to figure out, because when I had spoke to the audience, as I've been doing this podcast, I haven't, done it a long time. I had to find my own way. And then,
Yeah.
just like you said, I think you had a calling. I think your
Yeah.
calling was to help the Conjuring House. Your calling was
Hmm.
to help those spirits. Just
Yeah.
like I could never get no peace or this nagging feeling
Yeah.
of why do I see them the way I see them? Why are they just
Hmm.
screaming at me? And then found out, and it's perfect for you too. We speak for spirit. We don't
Correct.
speak for the living.
Correct.
And I think people have a hard time understanding that because
Right.
they go in, like we said, their intentions are not right. So, of course, if I'm a spirit and you're coming in and you're, just being nasty to me, I'm going to be like, yeah, no, thank you. I ain't talking to you. Right.
Right. Yeah.
But it,
I'm,
I have seen some of the nastiness going around. And it's
hmm.
actually disgusting because I've never seen something so brutal, not even on, the playground where you would go fist to fist,
I
right?
know. Right.
Um, but that makes me wonder, because if you look like on social media and everything is hate driven. It
Hmm.
is,
Yeah.
and people are like, swarming to it.
Yeah.
And if you put something positive out there, you're lucky if
Nobody
you get
looks.
one or two. Nobody
Bingo.
looks,
Nope.
but and that's why I'm like, are we at play with something different? I know we all have free will. That is what was given to
Hmm.
us on both
Yeah.
sides. You know, is this the point? You've always heard sold I sold my soul to the devil.
Right.
And I almost feel like that's where we're at. And because I have been going to some places to investigate that I've investigated before, and I'm now starting to see a lot more of the darker negative stuff coming out of these places than what I had seen at
Yeah.
the beginning. And it
Hmm.
is because a lot of visitors, a lot of people coming.
Sure.
Are you kind of seeing that all around too?
It's interesting because I think at our location it's kind of unique because we tend to kind of we have such weird jobs. I mean nobody can really relate unless you work at another, very haunted, very famous location. You become family, and I think the spirits are kind of like family too for us. And I think they sometimes sort of don't get involved unless they have to. It's sort of how it feels to me.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like that place can put you in your own place very, very quickly, should it want to. Um, but I do think that because there's so much negativity everywhere, and people are bringing them to all of these locations, so you're bringing all that energy, all these emotions, all this negative stuff. And yeah, you look at a place like a Conjuring House or some of the places you go. They're old buildings, lots of them with stone, water. Like there's just all of these. If you're getting into like stone tape theory and all that stuff, they're the perfect locations for that kind of energy to stick around after the fact. And to your point, I would imagine if things were copacetic with the spirits ahead of time, and now you got all this stuff coming in, they're probably not real happy you brought it in. You know what I mean? Like as a group of investigators or whatever the issue may be, they're probably pretty upset that now you've upset as humans the energetic apple cart, let's call it. And what you've brought in has nothing to do with them. And then now they have to deal with it forever. Did
Yeah,
that make any
because if you
sense? I kind of went kind of
it
around, but
Yeah, it does make sense because now you got to think about it. People don't understand when you have locations like OSR or Edinburgh
Mhm.
Manor or the
Mm.
Conjuring House, when you have a lot of energy-based spirits, you
Mhm.
automatically have portals. And people just think only
Yes.
good spirits come in and out. Well,
Oh
you
no.
got to remember, you don't have to have a portal to have spirit come out because, again, we
Right.
got free will. But, that makes a lot of sense because you're going to have a mix of all that. And it just depends
Yes.
on what side's stronger than the other. And,
Hmm.
I just noticed that a lot more locations, are starting to kind of show that side of it. And it's been kind of mind boggling seeing it because I'm like,
Yeah.
I've been here 5, 6, 7 times. Yes, every once in a while you feel like, oh, there's something lurking, but everything else takes over. And now
Right.
you're walking in going, "Is this even gonna be a safe place?" And
Yeah.
I totally agree with you with everybody that's coming in and out and what they are bringing. People don't realize the paranormal does have a dark, ugly side to it. And it's
It
not
does, and I
about the
think
spirits.
no, it's not. And I think too, it's a situation where, I think I know we get a lot of flack in the public about, the rules we have. And I know there's several locations that are starting to put a lot more safeguarded rules in for their locations. And it's not to make people mad. It's not to, make things inconvenient for people. But like my favorite rule of all of the rules is the last rule. Don't be the reason we have to make another rule. Right? Like, I think
Absolutely.
because, like you're saying, all this energy people are bringing, and especially in a place like ours where you have that, the movie obsession and the, which is great. People will have a one-track mind of what they want when they come in. They want to do certain things to bring that out. So we don't allow seances. We don't allow, people to use Ouija boards anymore. There's a lot of different rules. We've had to put those in place because, again, like I said at the beginning, our job is to take care of them as best we can. Whether it's trespassers or inappropriate guests, which rarely happens. I do think people treat the house with respect. It's rare that happens. But that is something that these more famous locations are having to put in place now because the respect level that a lot of teams have for these locations has gone downhill. It's all about now the likes, the clicks, the subscribers, the money. In a lot of cases, they forget about the fact that you are in a place that should be treated with the absolute utmost respect, no matter what's in there.
Absolutely.
You have to respect the place you're in. Otherwise, you create more of that. And so it's our jobs as caretakers, or like Jacqueline as the owner, to put in as many rules in place as we have to keep them safe. So
And
we can keep the energetic balance. Somewhat,
I gotta say, and and it's refreshing to hear that because there's not just one or anything, but there are a lot of locations. There have been people in the paranormal like, oh, I can make a lot of money off of this, so I'm just going to go buy a location and just let it get disrespected because they don't have rules in place. And again, it's so refreshing to hear, here we go again, the movies, the books and everything. Oh my God, the Conjuring House, it's the portal to hell. But to have a group like you guys to actually say, listen, we put it on paper. We speak for spirit. This is who we're taking care of. You don't hear that for a lot of places. And that's what I want to say, but I know you guys do set up things for people to come and visit. They got day tours, you got overnights and things like that. Can you let people know if they're interested where they can go to look and see what you have?
Absolutely. All of the bookings for us are done online. The website is theconjuringhouse.com. We've got day tours, extended tours. You can go camping, which is going to start, I think, in either end of May, early June. So you can investigate the land all night long. You can do private overnights. We also have staff hosted events, which are our go events. So we have a go all night event and a go investigate. Go all night's 13 hours staff guided investigation, especially great for people who don't have experience investigating. And then the Go Investigate is a 5-hour event, so a little bit shorter amount of time, but also another good way to get your feet wet if you're trying to learn about investigating. Because we figure if you're going to have people come, we need to give them the opportunity to learn how to investigate respectfully. Let them use the equipment and things like that. But we've got something for everybody because we do want people to experience. It's a very special place. And we also want people to be able to form their own opinions and get something different than maybe what they walked into it with as far as expectations. So awesome. Just the website, theconjuringhouse.com.
And again, it was refreshing to actually, talk with you tonight and kind of put some of that out there. Again, myself, Erin, we're not saying there's no negative energies out there. And we're not just talking the Conjuring House. We're just talking in general. But at the same time, you do still have to go, even if there's negative energy, with that respect, because you're respecting yourself and you're also, making sure you're protected. I want to really thank you for taking the time and talking tonight. I'm pretty sure some people were thinking, oh my gosh, it's going to come on. It's going to be all these creepy, spooky things about the Conjuring. Well, let me tell you, people, it is creepy and spooky. When you start pulling up, you're going to feel like you're about to tinkle yourself because everything is going through your mind. But it's also a location that if you are a true paranormal investigator who is looking for what the history is or what the stories are, that is a place to go. But also make sure you know when you're going there with respect. Because I'm going to tell you, you will get a ghost whoop ass if you don't. And that's just being
Yes.
serious because that's how I felt. Like if I actually felt like I had a mother looking over me the whole time. Like, you get out of
Mm-hmm.
line, I'm going to show you.
Yeah.
But again, thank you, Erin, so much for being with us tonight. I
Thanks for
greatly
having
appreciate
me.
you taking your time out, and I am sending you lots of love. And to
You
everyone who's
too.
been listening tonight, thank you for joining in. If you guys have any stories or anything that you want to talk about, or pictures or anything, just send them on through. And I just want to tell everybody I'm sending you lots of love, and I'll see you in the dark.